Here's the village of Melcroft. This is along 711 in Fayette County. And there's a lot of these little villages scattered about the region because this area was rich in coal. So there's a lot of coal patch towns, and you can tell these are all wood frame homes for the workers. And I'm sure the superintendent or the boss had a fancier house. I believe their homes were made out of brick. So this is the village of Melcroft. Yep, we're in the heart of coal region. And I think the speed limit might turn to 55, so I'm putting the pedal to the metal. Oh, 40. Looked like it would change. I was wrong, so it looks like I'll be slowing down. Not sure what this the name of this community is. Might be, I wonder if it's Champion. There's a gas station and a gift shop. County line, Church of the Breathe-In. Good, this is a four-way stop. All the way. Okay, nobody's coming. There. I didn't see any signs saying Village of Champion, but hey, I got it on video. What the heck? Cluster of homes. This must have been a community. I did not see any signs, but all I have to do is look up historic maps, and then I will find stuff. Ooh, abandoned motel. And the Living Treasures Animal Park is not that far away from here. There's one near Newcastle, and there's one here in the Laurel Highlands. Okay, which way do I go? I want at 711 North. Moonshine, wine, liquor, moonshine. Speed limit drops to 35, so there must be a village. The town of Donegal is 3 miles away, and that is along the PA Turnpike. Oh, Turnpike 2 miles, which I will not be driving on that road because I'm going to be heading to the Ghost Town Trail, and I really don't feel like paying the high tolls. That road has always been under construction. As long as I can remember. I remember doing trips with my family whenever I was little. My parents would always be complaining how the turnpike is under construction constantly. And this was 40 some years ago. North, so I'm gonna go right. You know I do these trips without GPS. I do look at Google Maps. And that's about the most I get in technology. Stallstown is 4, Ligonier is 12. So I'm going through the community of Donegal. Borough of Donegal, and this area must have been settled by the Irish because Donegal is definitely an Irish name. And I'm going 35 miles an hour. A lot of abandoned stuff. There's a house with insel brick. 7-Eleven North. I want to bear right. There, that's the community of Donegal. Actually, in Butler County, there's a Donegal Township, which was also settled by the Irish. They came over during the potato famine of the 1850s. Okay, I am coming up on the community of Stallstown. You can see the speed limit is going to be 35 miles per hour. And that's the normal speed limits for these little boroughs and villages is 35. Of course, there's a Dollar General. They're everywhere. And they can be a lifesaver too if you're in a bind and you need a few things. So I'm glad that they're there. Beautiful brick church. Straight. The way Google Maps took me to Ohio Powell was Route 8 South and then the PA Turnpike. But when you stay on interstates, you miss a lot of these small villages and unique things. I mean, if you're in a hurry, the interstate system is fantastic if you just want to get to your destination. But I like to explore. I like to see what's off the beaten path. Because you never know what interesting things you might see. Of course, that's not for everybody. Not everybody likes to explore like me, and I definitely understand that. Oh, interesting. One-room schoolhouse, some wood frame homes, so this must have been a coal patch. It's just slightly north of Ligonier on 7-Eleven, not sure of the name of this village. But I'll say it's a suburb of Ligonier. Okay, I want to stay left. I want to go towards New Florence. And this is a gas station. I need to stop and get gas. Looks like a Sheetz, yes. So let me pull into Sheetz and fill her up. Cruise dog's getting thirsty. It's feeding time. There. Filled Cruise dog up. It's on F now. All of that mountain driving made her thirsty. So, I'm going to be driving through New Florence next and then doing the Ghost Town Trail. Mill Creek Creek. The word creek's used twice. Interesting. Speed limit dropped to 40. This looks like a historic village of some type. Reminds me of Hooker and North Washington. Getting close to New Florence, but I believe that was that Fairfield? And the way the town is built reminds me of Hooker and North Washington along Route 38 in Butler County. I smell a skunk. Woo! Nasty. Oh my gosh.